I'm just so excited to have a special lunch and learn today. So, this audience is really mostly instructors. So, faculty who are wanting to better understand the not just the student experience, but the experience of our students who are managing multiple priorities, who are parents or caretakers of others, and that brings so much value into the classroom. It brings other challenges for students who are also parents, but there's so much perspective to be shared. And I think what we're hoping to get out of this session as faculty, as instructors, is to better understand the student perspective. This is our student perspective series, after all, on parenting with purpose, studying with strength. So we are thrilled to have our very own um, Molly Pierson here, who's going to lead and facilitate this conversation. I know she's asked a panel of students to join today, but as is the case sometimes with parents as students, things come up in life as well. We're happy to have Adia with us today. And I'm even happier that I pronounced it, I think, correctly.
Yeah,
So
you
I'm going
did.
to pass this virtual mic over to Molly, and we're going to get started today. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and so happy to have both of you here with us for the panel and a great conversation to ensue.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Amber and team, for coming up with this idea to create this space for our students as parents to talk about all that they bring to the classroom, but then also importantly, what are helpful things from faculty as we support the whole student and their experience at Park. And so, yeah, we're very lucky to have a student here with us live to share about her experiences. And I also have some written responses from a student, Isabel Donham, who's also a nursing student and new time mom, brand new baby. And I'll share what she's written in to kind of share with this group as well. So to kick us off, can you please introduce yourself, major, your degree, anticipated graduation date, and then if you're comfortable, your kids and ages.
Right, sure. So my name is Adia. Adia. I am 26. I'll be 27 this year. um, I'm doing my master's of arts in communication and leadership. This is my last semester. Hopefully, I'm graduating in May. So I'm just doing my
Congratulations.
course thesis project right now, as of like right now, which is due in like a week. So I'll just be left with a course, and then hopefully I can graduate in May this year. What else? I have a daughter. She is almost 2.5. She turned two in October. So we're kind of in the toddler space right now. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. And arguably maybe one of the hardest when you're trying to study or work on something because it's all
I
hands
know
on
it's
at two and a
yeah.
half.
Yes. They will require, I have two daughters. They're in college now, but I do remember that age and they definitely demand your attention.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, it's really hard to read, and because for my thesis project I have to do a lot of research reading, and she just she won't let me read on my laptop because she needs to be on the chair with me, wanting to touch all of the buttons, and then she won't let me write. So it's, yeah, it is a big task to be able to read and write while having a kid, especially when you're alone at home. Because my partner, he works when I'm home, and so it is a big task to be, being able to find that little bit of time in between to be able to do that.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely get more into, I think, the challenges, right, that exist,
Yeah.
I think, as a parent when you have, again, multiple responsibilities. But we also know there's a lot of assets that you bring to the classroom, given your experience as a parent. So can you talk about what are some of the most valuable insights you feel you bring to the classroom as a parent?
I think a lot of it has to do with patience and tolerance that I've built with my kid. Um I think that works really well when you're working in groups or teams, or when you're coming to the class and things don't really go your way. Because I've learned to be really, really tolerant and calm and composed as a person after I've become a mom, and it just really helps me a lot. Being able to understand communication, because that is my major, as from that perspective as well, especially when we're doing things like conflict resolution, or you know management or leadership. These are some of the qualities that work really well, because you learn to be kind and empathetic with your child, even though things aren't going your way, or it's really difficult sometimes. But these are some of the things that you kind of have to adapt to and adopt to. Also, I think you kind of understand how to work really quickly in situations that come up abruptly, because you just never know what's coming next, and you kind of need to be prepared for that. So I think things like that would be really are probably quite helpful to have when you're in a classroom, because you're always prepared. You don't panic or freak out. You're calm and composed. And I think ever since I've had a kid, I'm generally an organized person, but you need to have things that you will do, daily tasks and organization, and just stuff like that. Just putting things in perspective, like I need to do this by this time, or just time management. Oh yeah, a lot of time management skills. So I think all of those things really help you in the classroom, or even at your job. Multitasking. I'm like, my kids like pulling my pant in the kitchen and I have like something on the stove, but I also need to go grab something else. So there's a lot of multitasking going on as well, which is really helpful, I think.
Love that. Yeah. Isabella, who sent in her responses as well, I think said a lot of what you offer up, the idea of patience. So this idea of patience, of not getting too frazzled by things. We were like, this is
Hmm.
nothing in comparison to kind of the day to day. And that flexibility. I appreciate that you talked a little bit about the time management. And I think working ahead, I know that's something that is important for faculty to think about as they think about groups and group projects, right? That like we
Hmm.
all function on different timelines, where there might be a student who's like, oh, I'm going to do it right before it's due. Whereas as a parent,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm going to make my due date a week in advance because I know that 10 things can go wrong that, may kind of get in the way of that.
That's correct. I think there was, yeah, but there's a lot of fuzziness up here, because once you have kids, you tend to forget a lot of things. So I actually had a point, but I don't remember it all anymore.
Well, please bring it back in when you find it, because I know too, like sometimes you're like, oh, I got it now. So please feel free to
Yep.
refer back to this question later on. So kind of related, kind of same vein. So what do you feel like faculty should know most about what it means to be a parent and a student?
I think mhm, that's a good one. I think there's so many things, but of course, all I think most faculty members are parents themselves, so they do really understand things that we go through. But I feel like it's a lot harder to do a lot of extensive reading when you're a parent, because your kids don't really give you the time, and by the time you're done with everything and you have the time, you just don't have the mental capacity, or you're just too exhausted to be able to start doing something that's way too long. So I think especially things like discussions, when we do a lot of discussions on Canvas, it's just a lot of them are like typically around the same kind of line, where it's just
Mhm.
like, okay, pick for example, if there's a course that I did, and every single week, every single discussion, like two discussions, were just pick out scholarly papers, read them, turn in an abstract, and kind of just do the peer review. And and at a point, that is fine. I mean, we should be able to know how to read these papers, and kind of summarize them, or take out pointers. But I really necessarily feel that discussions should be more of an open kind of a place where we could actually discuss things that we feel about that course, or things that we've read in the course, instead of just doing peer reviewed articles, or just doing a set of questions that are pre-made and just like very simply prepared beforehand. I also think that there are some courses where discussions feel a little bit unnecessary, like quantitative research, because it is all it's mostly a lot of research that you have to do by the end of the course. But you have to do two discussions every single week, and each discussion is just asking you typically just basic questions like, okay, what is this part of quantitative research? What are these? Just statistical mathematical equations, just asking about those, asking us to write about surveys and forms, and that is all fine from a perspective of reading, but I would like to be able to discuss more in the discussions, on a cognitive level or just on an interpersonal level, instead of pulling stuff out from the internet or just reading some stuff and just summarizing it. It just doesn't feel like a discussion anymore, especially where, I mean, as you're a parent, we're all in our graduate programs, we're all mature enough to be able to do that. But I feel like this should be more of a interpersonal discussion instead of just typing our responses and then just doing a minimum of three every week, which just feels very monotonous and forced for grades. um, that's kind of something I'd like faculty to kind of understand. But there have been courses where my where the professors have innovated discussions in such a way that has been so helpful. I did two courses with Dr. Mark No in my last 2 years. I don't think he's with Park anymore. He retired, but his discussions were just the most interesting ones that I've ever done. He allowed us to ask questions. He allowed us to write things without resources or just from our hearts and our minds and what we've learned so far. And most like week discussions were just him. I mean, he would pick out a book and divide us into groups, and we'd have to read each chapter each week, and people would bring in questions from the chapters, from like a storybook, not even like a course book. It was just like um it was a book, and people would bring in questions and we would just talk and discuss. And one of these was online, one was in campus, but both of them were extremely interesting because we got to talk about what we'd read and things that we'd observed, and then each other's perspectives were sometimes so different because everyone reads books differently and they think about things differently. So I think a little bit of innovation on the discussion would work really well for us, instead of just going by the book completely. That is something that I would want people to kind of understand, as faculty, knowing that we're parents. And then also, I think deadlines is a huge one for us. Especially because we know that, oh my gosh, I have a week to kind of do the discussions and everything, the initial posts and then the responses. But things just get so fired up sometimes that I am literally on the verge of just like 11:50, because I'm literally doing discussions from my phone because I'm just like, I can't right now. My kid is just driving me crazy. I also think that, like, I work part time as well. I'm a student, I'm a mom. So there's just so much that goes on that you're not able to do that much coursework in a week, because there's assignments every week or 2 week. Like the last semester I did, I needed to submit an assignment every single week, plus two discussions, plus responses, which was kind of a lot because an assignment needs to be, thoroughly well written, and it needs to, and it was a course where you couldn't take a lot of things off the internet. It was stuff that I needed to write from my personal experience, so you need to do 10 or 12 pages of writing, but then you also need to read stuff and you also need to respond. So I feel like a lot of that just kind of piles up on you and it gets really overwhelming. So just see if there's a way to kind of make things more interesting or make things more relevant to coursework, instead of it just feeling like just like a mental task that I have to complete instead of learning something. I think
Well,
that
and what
is.
I'm kind of hear, yeah, what I'm kind of hearing you say, and I think this also came through with our other student Isabel, who sent her responses too, was this. that like
We're
time
all
is so
living the same life. It's there
yeah,
is no original
right.
experience.
It's like yes and right, and then you all are so unique. So I think that there's a lot of that, right? Whereas like, and I think she even spoke to this, like networks
Yeah.
of support are different, right, for different parents. But I think what I'm hearing is that your time is valuable, and so sometimes when there are assignments or work that feels like busy work, let's say, or don't contribute to the learning, those can be frustrating. So just one
Yeah.
other thing that you have to work on,
Yeah.
and then what I'm also kind of hearing maybe too is that it's helpful maybe when you can kind of capture intentional time. So like what I'm hearing from you around like discussion, like that's really interesting and you want to be fully engaged in that. But it's maybe hard at times, and this is something Isabella speaks to as
Yeah.
well, finding time to study. Like trying to like decide, I have this little toddler who needs my attention, and when am I going to find my time to get my readings done or do my assignment or something? And so does that resonate for you? Kind of that, again, that intentionality, making sure your time is well spent because it's pretty
Yeah.
limited. Are there any,
Also I think with online discussions, I feel like it'd be better if I could, if we could talk to each other or do like a weekly session instead of just typing stuff down. I think that'd be a lot better for people to kind of share their perspectives on and even learn something instead of just writing stuff in a paragraph and post. I doubt anybody reads all of the responses. I don't. Honestly, I just put mine
no,
in and I pick two that I need to respond to like before Sunday, and I'll just respond to that. I doubt everybody even reads all of that, which is why it's so important for us to be able to talk to each other or engage more than just write stuff online.
I so appreciate that. I actually had my own experience in my doctoral program. It was my professor kind of laughed at me because we ended our class early. It was an in-person class. And I said, "You're not going to tell my family, are you? Like, I'm going to use this time to like get my homework done because I've already found a babysitter, all those things, right? Like things are set."
Yeah.
And so she kind of laughed that everyone else was like, "Yay, we get time back on our Saturday." But again, that idea of intentional time of like if you're in a class, you're going to find the way to be there fully, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that Isabella talked a little about too. I think she had a professor who was understanding of her having an infant. And so how can she be present in class with a baby where it's not a distraction, but also recognizing, right, that like sometimes plans fall through. And so how do you kind of support your student being in the classroom, when they might still need to care for a kid?
Yeah. And so this is my last year. Like I've obviously had to do courses really slowly because I have a kid, but I actually gave birth while I was in class, like in the semester. And I just and thankfully it was Professor Mark, and I know that was I just look up to him a lot. I was like emailing him from the labor room saying that I can't come in today, or like I can't put my discussions in because I'm giving birth. But then I did go in class that same week, and he was shocked. He was astonished that I'd been able to come in person to the class. But it was really nice that being a new mom, like I was just freshly postpartum, like a week. I did get a lot of easiness on the deadlines because it was really hard for me to kind of figure that one out. And he did make that favor to me. So I think if it's a genuine scenario or like you see parents struggling a lot, I feel like it is okay to make some exceptions for those students.
And as a shameless plug of resources as faculty are helping students navigate this, really to me, that falls within a medical accommodation, but then also just beyond that, just supporting. These are all things that are really there. They are rights of students as you're navigating being a new parent and being a new mom and navigating school. And so please, faculty, never hesitate to reach out to my office first, and we'll get you connected and the student connected to the right
Mhm.
resource to ensure that they have what they need. But it sounds like you didn't necessarily like your faculty were awesome and being
Yes, they were.
supportive. What are maybe some other specifics of things that you feel like were practices that faculty have done to support you as a student and parent? Any other particular kind of things that you want faculty to know are helpful to you as a parent?
um, um, I don't think there's anything else that has helped me really specifically as a parent, but I had an in-person class. My husband would sit outside with my kid outside the class. Maybe, I mean, if we would, yeah, let him in, let him sit next, like, let him sit at the back. I remember like he would just wait outside because I live in Lenexa, so it's kind of a drive. So
Mhm.
you just, or sometimes I, need to find someone to look after her.
Mhm.
Um, and because I was nursing, you kind of had to go back and pump immediately, or you have to pump and leave and kind of do stuff like that. So I think a lot of those would be helpful, like if we had space for that, if parents are doing full day of classes in person, or they get time to kind of pump, or a place where they could nurse, or if they could bring their kid in sometimes if they're really small, um so they could just be sleeping inside the class.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I do think that like that is a balance, right, for faculty. Like I think there are some kids that they will,
Um,
even I think older, I think of my own, like who maybe would even have their headphones on and do a game on their iPad,
yeah.
right? They would be just fine, for an hour
Yeah.
sitting
I mean, if we
sitting
couldn't
there.
find someone to look after them, and, we have to make it to class, I'm not saying it should be something that's a regular case or like an everyday thing, but like exceptions,
Yeah.
or things that are like, once in a while kind of a thing. Um, yeah, I think
I,
that's about it. I think right now that I'm doing my course project is when I'm feeling the most of my parental burden, because it is a kind of like a thesis project, and I should have to be reading a lot, I have to be writing a lot, and I'm home alone with my daughter once I get back from work because my husband leaves, and it's just really hard to be able to manage all of that, with it coming so like I just feel like it's coming so fast up, and I have so much to do, and it's just being really hard. I don't necessarily know if there's something that would help me during that, but I just know that this is one of the really harder challenges that I faced during the program, is that she won't let me work. She just won't let me work. She won't let me read. Um, and so I just don't know how faculty would be able to help with that, but that's just some of the challenges that I'm facing. Maybe like my professors can help me out more with like particular like resources for my paper that I'm finding, because it takes you a while to kind of get the right kind of material as well, that you first need to read and then write from. It takes a while for you to kind of gather those resources. I think if it would be helpful if people, if faculty just suggested specific papers or authors or resources that would save us some time to kind of gather that information. And that's what my professor did yesterday. I was talking to her. She gave me like three specific authors. She gave me specific keywords that I could put in the research database that I hadn't even thought of, because my mind just wasn't going there. And so that was really helpful to be able to narrow down some of the resources that I can use. I think stuff like this, just a little bit of teacher student aid in researching could help parents a lot, and save that little bit of time that they need to do something.
Absolutely. Well, Audie, thank you so much for your wisdom again, that you brought. It's so valuable to hear just your firsthand experience, and you were so impressive, and inspiring, and navigating all this. And I'm so excited to celebrate you very soon, as you go across, the graduation
I
stage.
hope I do.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna do it. I
That's
believe
another
it.
thing. I have to take the comprehensive exam, which is I need 24 hours. And I'm like asking my
Yes.
husband how we're going to manage that. And like, how am
Yeah.
I going to work? I'm probably going to spend the whole day at the library. He's going to skip work or
Yes. I was gonna
something. I'm
say, get
like,
out of the
we
house if you can.
kind of need to figure that part out. So yeah, it is really hard. Um, and then even being a parent, I know this is just like strictly a parental thing, but being from a different culture also really affects your ability to be a student. Like I'm fasting right now, the whole month I'm fasting, so it is really hard for me to able to to be able to get more work in, because we're up at sunrise, and then we're sunset, or an hour or two before sunset I have to be in the kitchen. I have to prep stuff for the fast, and like in between you're just like you're just going through it because you can't eat, you can't drink water, you're just tired, and then after you eat you're kind of really drowsy. So I
Yeah.
feel like even culturally, there are so many things that kind of add in to your burdens as a parent, because you have to do so much stuff with your kids while you're doing, religious obligations and cultural obligations, and there's just so much going on that it makes it really hard for you to be able to keep up with everything.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing it up because I do think that sometimes, right, like there's some commonalities in being a parent and what that means for you as a student, but then there are so many uniqueness to each of us, right, based on all the identities that we hold. And
Mhm.
so I think, as faculty think about how to support a student who, a parent who's a student in your class, is getting to know them, right? Getting to know what are kind of their biggest, struggles, what are things that they
Mhm.
where they need help and support, and also seeing what they bring to the classroom as well. And so thank you for making a note to that, because I think that's super important, that it's not the only thing, right, that is
Yep.
making it challenging, to be a student. And so again, appreciate all those insights, and I'll maybe turn to Amber for any kind of final pieces.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you guys so much. Molly, for your willingness to put this together and moderate, and Adia, for you joining today and just sharing your perspective. As someone with already limited time, we appreciate you dedicating this time to indulge
Yeah.
us in better understanding. I mean, I feel like so many great takeaways came from this in terms of a lot of flexibility, giving students flexibility. It's not that if a deadline is missed, it's not because it was intentionally designed to be, it's because life happens.
Yeah.
And being flexible with deadlines, being able to help students prioritize what is the most important area to focus on within the course within a given week.
Mhm.
Um, Being able to think through intentional course design as well. Maybe don't have all of the biggest assignments due the last week of classes when all the other classes are having everything due at that
Yep.
time too. Staggering assignments in different ways, and creating the relevance, as you mentioned as well. Even as we
Mhm.
think through course design, it doesn't need to be, the post and three
Yeah.
discussion posts after. It's
It
really about
doesn't need to
meaningfully
be
engaging. And if you're gonna
extremely by
have
the
students
book.
use their
Yeah.
time to
Hmm.
make it worthwhile and
Yeah.
useful and relevant. So yeah, those were just several of the little nuggets you dropped that I took away. I'm sure there's many more. But I just thank you so much for
No
for
problem.
dedicating your time. Thank you so much for dedicating your journey, your educational journey at Park. We're so happy and thankful to have you here, and good luck with the last portion before you graduate as well.
Thank
That's
you.
fantastic. Yeah, so thank you. And thank everybody who joined today.